4. Go, 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 go!
Nice. Very nice. Front to back. Leader's garment. Quite happy.
It's alright, isn't it? Looks pretty good in that bad boy.
Excellent, I think the word you're looking for is... Look at that thing. Looks beautiful, done. Beautiful.
Now, only if you're ready for this.
Welcome back to the OTB podcast. We're here again. It's been a bit of a break. We've had a few weeks off there, but we're back in action. We've had the World Champs go down in the weekend, so lots to talk about there. Previously between Mont Saint Anne and World Champs, I don't think anything really that big went on. I mean, we might talk about that as we get into this a bit more, but yeah, it's one of those things we thought we'd hold off and do something exciting. Today, I'm joined by esteemed co-host, two esteemed co-hosts today, Chris Vanderkolk and Lester Perry. Lester's back from his childless trip to Canada. Lester, how you doing, mate?
Oh yeah, good mate. Slotted right back into reality and normality. But yeah, good to get away for a couple of weeks of madness, so it was good.
I thought you were going to say good to get away from the kids for a second there, but...
Well, that too. You know, it's good to have a break every now and then.
This is a safe space, though, Lester. You can share your real feelings. Mainly safe because we know
that our wives
aren't
going to listen. And Chris Vanderkolk, back again, 2 in a row. Welcome back.
It's a pleasure to be back. I was actually talking to my wife about this earlier, just explaining that when you've got a media career, you just have to keep at it, and you have to take every opportunity. So Red Dog's not available this weekend. I just slotted right in there.
Yeah, the better looking, probably better presented co-host here. I don't know where Red Dog is. He reckons he wasn't going to make it. I don't know. I think maybe he's just pulled the pin. We'll see if he's back next time.
I think he just had dinner plans.
All I know is that he's got a date with HR.
I reckon Pip said no, not tonight, Red Dog.
Maybe it's the night.
Pip put a foot
It's
down.
the night.
I think Pip would make a better host than Red Dog.
Probably.
Well, at least she would know what's going on in the women's race.
Oh, shots
We
fired.
clearly don't. Although I have made a special effort today.
No, see, normally I kind of flick through it a bit. I'm pretty bad at flicking through, and I'll normally watch like the top 5 women. But thanks to Sky TV having the rights and me not being savvy enough to work a VPN, I ended up watching the women's racing pretty much in full on Sunday morning because it was the only thing that Sky actually had a replay of up for quite some time. So Sky forced me into it, but it was pretty good racing at the top end of the pack as usual.
Do you think if we pitched to Sky to do the localized commentary that we could get it broadcast live?
If they listen to this podcast, I think they'll be in.
I'm surprised they haven't approached us already. So they obviously don't listen.
No, well,
No.
they need to get in touch with the grassroots of the sport, though, right?
What? Who's our agent, KB? That's probably the first question.
In negotiations with Martin Whiteley.
Oh, right, fair enough.
Yeah, he's the only agent that I know of in the sport. So,
Are you negotiating with someone to get his phone number?
yeah.
Into his DMs.
The DMs on Instagram have been going, just been left on scene, like everyone else that this podcast deals with. So,
He knows what's up.
yeah,
You need to build a race.
he's probably staying away. He knows what's good for him. He's been around the sport for a while.
Yeah, he knows a shunter when he sees one.
Yeah.
Racing.
Do you want to talk about the women's race more? I mean, obviously, that's pretty phenomenal. And I think I'm right in saying that's probably
Spit it out, mate.
what was I going to say? Can't remember. Anyway, the last world champ was last junior was Scarlett, right?
And junior women's, Scarlett, 18 years ago in Leger, won world champs.
It was Leger. Okay, there you go.
And she beat Rachel Atherton by like 10 seconds.
That's right. Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah, that was 18 years ago when Scarlett and Vanessa both won world champs. Vanessa Quinn won Elite Women's.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, does
Interesting.
anyone know where Vanessa is these days? Because I'd love to get her on this podcast. Does anyone know how to get
Oh, I should have some
She
stories.
lives in Tara. I'm sure she'd be keen, actually. I bumped into her in Rotorua, well, not on a regular, but I see her over there a bit.
Well, there we go, Lester. There we go. That's your mission.
If I ever make it back to Rotorua, I'll...
If you're ever out of the Waikato again. But now, so instead of talking about 2022, let's just talk about 2004 World Champs in Leger, because fuck, that was a good race. I mean, I cried a little bit when Petey crashed in with inside of the finish, but yeah, it was a good race too. Pretty awesome to. I'd kind of forgotten that the juniors were racing, and then I get a text from Red Dog saying Jenna Hastings just won. I was like, holy shit! I kind of like she's been real solid this season, but like it just seemed like Gracie and Phoebe Gale kind of just had that little bit up on her, but man, smashed it.
If you're going to peak for one race, this is it, right?
Hell yeah, take the rainbow stripes.
Yeah.
Does she have another year of juniors?
Pretty sure she does.
I'd say so, yeah.
Pretty positive. And then, did you see the videos of her doing burnouts on Bernie's CBR afterwards? That was the best part. That was the best content from the race.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It looks like a pretty good setup, and I think that, if her parents have taken a fairly, or not a risk, but, they're obviously pretty confident that Bernard's going to look after her, and that's kind of got to fit her, like to send your 17-year-old daughter to the other side of the world on her first overseas trip.
With the degenerates of the pivot team with Matt Walker and Ed Masters and Bernie Kerr.
But I think that it goes a long way to show like what a legit setup that actually is, as much as they play it up.
Sure.
But it also highlights how big a deal it is for a junior to get from the arse end of the world to Europe and the States to go and race World Cups, right, and World Champs. Like, it's a big call for a 17-year-old anyone to go and get a spot on a team and then figure it out as they go and still keep their head in the game. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Well, 100% from that angle, but also from the angle of those guys, like, I guess, talent spotting and going, well, it's worth us investing time and money in it, Like, I think she did a bit of racing with them last year, eh?
I don't think she really went overseas last year. I think it was more like she just had that incredible run at Crankworks over here, and that kind of like set things in motion, I think, because I think Pivot were like kind of pretty impressed with her, and I think Bernard was here at the time. I think he came over. Maybe he didn't. No, he might not have, because there was all the shitty COVID stuff, but COVID works of Rotorua in 2021, but I think that kind of set things going, and got it all in action. So it's pretty cool.
It's cool. It's going to be an interesting few years for her, for sure.
She's a Rotorua girl as well, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Your hood.
Zeke's hood. Pretty impressive. Also, I flicked back quickly and listened, Chris, to the end of our last episode, and we threw some winners in there, and we were all way up. Well, we weren't way off, but I think
Valley.
Did you pick Valley?
I'm sure I did.
Oh, maybe you did. Maybe I got mixed up then. Me, Red Dog. We both picked Miriam. So maybe you're right on that one then. We'll give you that one. I won't go and fact check it.
So is she just going to dominate for the next couple of years?
Wow. I mean...
No, I think it's going to be status quo, and I reckon that she kind of... I mean, there's no doubt she had a killer run. She looked way better on the bike than anyone else did. Cammy looked pretty good, but...
we say that, but Nina was 0.9 of a second off her.
Yeah, but Nina didn't look good on the bike. She looked really forced, I thought. But
she was 0.9 of a second off her.
Like, I mean, yeah. But I don't think... What I'm kind of getting at is I don't think she's going to go and dominate. I think she'll continue to do real well, but there's so many others. Well, you've got Nina, Cammy, Pompon. One other.
What's the girl from Scott that she had to miss this race? Her name's escaping. This is terrible. Marine Cabaret.
Yeah. So
That's
there's
kind of the top 5, and I reckon they will just.
And her, who could be in any mix, really.
Well, and Tani's out this year, right? So she's
Yeah.
obviously having pretty shitty concussion symptoms. But once she's back and right, you have to think that she'll be in the mixer.
Yeah,
It's
could be
pretty interesting.
Could be a really good tight women's field if they're all on. The problem's been that somebody's always been injured or coming back from injury.
But
they all get together for a
it's weird
season.
as well, though, right? Like, well, it's not weird. I think we all know why it's the way it is that the women's racing is really awesome. It's competitive, but there's no depth in that field. Like, there's a small handful of women battling it out and doing a hell of a job of it. But then after the top 6, 7, it just gets pretty amateur pretty quickly.
Yeah. It's almost not even that far. It's almost it's like once you kind of off that top 5 of the podium, it sort of drops away pretty quickly.
Yeah, so all you need is like 1 or 2 people to be out with injury, and then suddenly there's not a lot of competition for the podium.
Then there's those girls that will bounce in and out, like Jess Blewett. She'll bounce in and out of the podium, and like Millie Johnson, and there's a few of them that are really good, but they just don't have that consistency that like Valley, Nina, Miriam, Cami, those girls have got. So
that's true. I guess Jess, for example, still pretty new on the scene. This is
for sure.
Season. First season was cut short. Millie Johnson, she's been around for a little bit, but still young. So, I mean, who knows, the next 2 years, those girls could up their game and the others become more solid. So we could see real competitive racing.
You need, like all of those juniors that are battling out at the moment need to all go off and seniors and stay there. Not fall off, not bail out, and just for that field to just get deeper and deeper each year for a couple of years.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Miriam and Kenny are both in their 30s.
Yeah.
So it's like they're both 30, 32-ish sort of thing. So it's like, they've been there for a while.
Yeah. But I think it's good. I mean, we can see the juniors are fast enough to step up and compete against the elites. So hopefully that means the future's kind of bright for the women's.
While we're on this, I was probably going to save it for later on, but we've obviously got... I was so impressed that Cami made it back 2.5 weeks after
gnarly.
Getting her collarbone plated. Like, I know pretty much you hear about people doing that with collarbones, and it's like, it's not going to break, but you just got to deal with the pain. But you imagine that track was so dry and rough, like how bad that had to hurt.
Yeah, that's unreal.
16 screws and 2 plates, I think they said.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's not a small feat.
I was impressed because I had kind of figured that she would hold back and wait for Val di Sole for World Cup finals to try and keep that overall, because like she still has a pretty good chance of it. I don't know what the maths is off the top of my head without actually going and researching it, but it's like I think if Valley wins qualifying, well, because it's combined points, so there's no qualifying points, so it's finals is everything.
Finals.
So instead of finals being 200 points for the win, it's 250. So I think if Cami can like top 5, I think she can still hold on to it. So that's what I kind of figured. I was like, surely she'll just try and get strong and back in it. But I guess at least racing now kind of gives her a little bit more momentum rather than coming in completely fresh.
Yeah. I listened to another rival podcast of ours, which is similar to this, but listenership's probably slightly larger.
Was it was it Joe Rogan?
Just
are they
blowing us out of the water?
Are they doing mountain biking on Joe Rogan these days? Are they, Murky?
Yeah. Don't get me started on Rogan.
Was it the Lance Armstrong podcast?
It'll go off piste real fast.
yeah. But he was who was talking about that? Elliot Jackson was saying basically exactly that. She wanted to keep going and know that she can hit next week. If she can make it through this week well, then she knows next weekend she can go better. And she wanted to keep that momentum. So I think that's what you say is pretty valid.
And especially when she still comes in and gets 4th place, when she looked pretty sore. And it was still a legitimate 4th place as well.
It probably replaced that plate after the run as well. Like, it's bent. It's not straight anymore.
Hey, we're going to put a new one in for you.
Yeah, she's just got a race run pin.
That's gnarly. Speaking of Jess as well, like we were before, she's going to hardline apparently.
That's pretty impressive. Must be the first girl that's raced there, right?
For lack
First
of a better
woman
way
to
of putting
race
it, that's ballsy.
Man, that's gnarly. Like,
that shit looks big.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's interesting. That so if she's the first woman to go to that, she can't be surely because there's a deep field of like women free riders who have kind of come up in the last couple of years. But I would have
but
thought
none of
that
them
they'd
have
be
done hardline yet. I don't know what others are going. Like, I would have thought it would be strange for Jess to just go as the only girl.
like Casey to go or something.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I don't know. I guess the difference as well is that hardline is still a race.
Yeah. A race where you have to get through 50-foot doubles. And
even
drops.
if you can get past that first massive step down that they hit, like... And in fact, we'll get to this if we ever get past the World Cup. Some of the stuff I saw in Canada that women were riding was like mountain biking has just stepped up in a major
Glad
way.
you clarified that was mountain biking there, Lester. You went in downtown Vancouver at the time.
I think they were women anyway. Right.
You worried about being cancelled, mate?
Oh, it's gone off post already.
That's why you're only a guest every now and then, because you lower the tone.
We've got to keep him on the tight leash.
Red Dog just keeping the tiller straight, hey?
Any more points on the women's?
Not really.
I thought like watching Pon Pon didn't give me a lot of like.
I don't know what was up with her.
Yeah, she didn't look good on the bike. She didn't look her normal self, and didn't look smooth. She looked like she was hitting everything. Now, that's purely what it looked like. She was back a little bit in time, but it wasn't like she was out the back door.
When the women were racing, had it dried up?
Yeah, it was pretty dry. Yeah,
because it looked pretty treacherous for some of the juniors. Like they had a hard task on their hands.
Yeah, there was a few bits that looked pretty slick, like Jackson Goldstone getting caught out twice, going down pretty decent.
I haven't watched the juniors racing, but did you guys see Lockie's crash?
Yeah.
No.
That was gnarly.
That was big.
Was that somewhere
he basically got out the front door and then landed kind of on his face, and it looks like his helmet like grips the ground, and then he gets kind of like rolled over.
Oh, that's right.
And he's done a T4 or something and a wrist, I think it was.
Jesus.
Ooh. Yeah, he's pretty like he's done for the season kind of thing.
Did he do that in practice or in his race run?
That was qualifying.
It must have been quali, yeah.
Oh, rough.
Yeah, that was. It's real. It's super gnarly crash. Yeah, not good. I mean, the Kiwis had a bit of a rough one actually because Brannigan got shingles.
Yeah, saw that.
Lockie smoked himself. Sam Gay smoked himself. Matt Wilson, who was in the under 23, cross country, who apparently he was going quite good, and he's a weapon. He cased a jump and blew up his wheel or something. Something happened and he didn't have enough speed, got cut off or something. So yeah, I mean and Anton was coming back from COVID.
Yeah, I guess he's kind of been on the comeback.
Yeah, so the Kiwis have had a pretty tough run at it.
Just a yard sale.
Yeah. Interesting.
Controversial, but a pretty respectable result for Hayden Steed, the non-Kiwi New Zealand representative.
Did you see Wynn firing shots at Cycling New Zealand?
Man,
on Instagram?
What a shit fight that turned into. Well, it didn't turn into.
I'm not up with this play. I saw what Wynn was on about, but I don't know what was going on about a non-Kiwi.
It was Hayden. I'd never heard of him until he won Oceanias this year in Australia.
Yeah, I know that name.
Oceanias was like a week before Lords, so no one was there essentially. And he's been living in Australia, apparently, for a few years now, but obviously still Kiwi born, so racing on slightly New Zealand license or whatever. But because he took a huge points haul from that, it put him ahead of Win in UCI points. And then...
Was that when they did the selection?
Yeah, so that was like just recently or whatever.
Because I read the regulations, and the key thing that it calls out in the regulations is that you have to have competed in the New Zealand national champs, which is
that's always
flawed rule
in there.
because
Yeah, that's always been in there, and I think as long as you kind of give them notice that, like, hey, I'm not for this reason,
right,
then they're kind of always been all right with it. But I think essentially it came down to UCI points for those last few spots, which was like Hayden, Wynn, and Finn Hawkesby Brown were kind of like the three guys on that bubble.
what an awkward
And
situation.
I think it came down to points, but it's kind of weird. Like, I don't know. Like, I think if you were following it closely and you'd looked at the guy who's done the whole season, and you'd probably take Win. But,
Oh yeah, it seems pretty obvious.
The problem is that it's not a. They take all the subjectivity out of it, right? By having a hard and fast. It was the same at the 06 Worlds doing selection for the New Zealand team. Like, you're never going to get it right. So how do you do it? Okay, you just go whoever. It's just on UCI point ranking, and then that's it.
Yeah, I was actually had a bit of a discussion with Cabin about it, and he explained like how bad it is in terms of when it comes to cross country, and like how the cross country stuff is so by the black and white what is written that it's like if you're not getting these results then you're just not going. And it's like, so there's no one racing elite women. Like, we haven't had anyone race for a few years in elite women now, I think.
As much as it sucks, it is to protect their own backside, because they'll go straight to court, essentially. Well, they do. They take them to court. It's been happening in Australia because the road worlds are in Aussie. People who they couldn't announce the selection because they had 3 court cases going or something crazy like that with people who missed out. So, I mean, I get it, but it's...
But so, like...
if we were the selectors, you would make a subjective decision, and it's probably going to be the right decision, but if we got taken to court over it, there's nothing other than,
this is what I thought.
So is that...
Makes sense.
X number of UCI points at a certain date in the year?
It's your UCI ranking as of the time they do selection, I guess.
Yeah.
Because that seems in itself kind of flawed, right? Like, I mean, that logic makes sense, but so if you pair it back to we want to take the best possible team to the world champs, right? Then theoretically the UCI point should be closer to the world champs time than it actually is. And I realise there's logistical challenges to deal with there, right? Like people and all the rest of it, but like
UCI points are pretty flawed for that reason, because you're taking all those continental events and stuff like that into play.
Right.
Like
the weightings were all whack, eh?
The year I won Oceania's 2008, and I had we had a couple of national rounds that had UCI points as well, and I would have gone into the first round of the season with like the number 5 plate or whatever if it was based on UCI points, because I was 5th overall in UCI points at the first World Cup round.
Yeah, because
there'd been nothing else on before that round.
Yeah, so I suppose you can cut it in a few different ways, can't you? I mean,
I think what they used to do, and maybe they still do if there's enough people, but they used to have a long list, which would be like 4 months out, here's our long list, and then we make our final selection out of that within 6 weeks or whatever of the world champs.
There always was a long list because you'd get notified, because I remember Red Dog put me on the long list in like 2013 when I was like 3 years out of actually racing overseas. And he was a selector.
I'd be interested to know how they do it in the countries where they got bigger fields. Be pretty interested to know how they do it, like the UK, like France. I mean, how the hell do you put a world champs team together for France at the moment?
Well, I mean, I guess if you pick in 8 spots or whatever they've got, you're going to pick probably like 5 or 6 of those pretty easily.
Yeah, that's true. It'll just come down to points as well. Like they might have their own internal point weighting system as well.
Yeah.
In that you have your UCI points, but then they look at your finishes or where those finishes are and essentially maybe unweight them or change the weighting of them, something like that. I mean, that's probably a smart way of doing it, to be fair.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure we used to have like automatic selection for national champ. I think got automatic selection and maybe Oceania champ as well. So whether that still falls in there somewhere or not, not too sure.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. We don't know a lot. We've been out of that inner circle for a while. There, boys.
I was never really in it, to be fair.
You're a selector. You know the ins and outs.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah. Cool.
Let's talk about elite men. That's enough of fucking selection. Rubbish. Fucking Bruni, man. What a 2.5 second win. That was incredible.
Yeah, not only that, but where he got the time.
That second split was insane.
How did he get that? That's what I want to know. Have we seen any footage or anything? Right.
So I went and watched a helmet cam run to try and like get a bit of a picture of where he might have like put that together in the second split, but I still couldn't really, because you didn't see a lot of the second split in the live broadcast.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, he just comes out like up.
Did you see though?
Started building.
He dropped a foot on the first left-hander. He came out of the gate firing, and almost dropped it, and then obviously picked it up. So he must have just been carrying better speed across the whole course, because it looks like he comes out suddenly found 2 seconds, but anything he lost probably a second or 2 in that corner, and then was just faster across the whole course.
It's interesting. I mean, the first split is pretty short. It's 23 seconds. Brosnan was the fastest on the first split, and Bruni was 0.03 of a second behind him. But then it's like Bruni just goes 1, 1, 1, 1 down the next set of splits. Like, see you boys, the ones that count. I'm out of here.
Unreal.
That was a phenomenal way. Like such a textbook ride. Apart from that first left, everything else he did was right.
How good does his setup look though? Just his bike, he just looks so dialed. His bike looks perfect. I kind of look at it and I'm like, it looks kind of soft, but it's obviously not. Like it's obviously totally fine for him.
I thought that his bike looked better at this round than other rounds. So whether something's changed with the bike or whether the bike just suits this track so well, I don't know. But
this track did also somehow look a bit awkward compared to some of the other tracks. Like from some of the previous stuff that I watched, it wasn't actually that steep in a lot of places. There's a couple of steep sections, but a lot of the big wide open fast sections weren't that steep. And
it's quite odd. It was like some of that steep stuff looked quite Val di Sole-ish, like where you're kind of turning across routes and like quite natural. And then how awkward did it look when they were dropping down into those berms before they came out into like the wide open stuff at the end? Like it just looked so uncomfortable for them coming in, having to brake and set up into that first right-hand berm that they dropped into. Some weird sections.
There was nobody hit that section and you were like, oh yeah, that looked real good, or they ripped that, like everybody looked. I just, in my head, I'm thinking of Manar coming through there, like even he didn't look that good through there.
Yeah, you're sort of like, why is he setting up so slow into this turn?
Yeah, like
it must.
It just didn't look that. It didn't look particularly dramatic. Like it made for kind of weird racing to watch, right? Because it was hard to tell if someone was on an absolute heater until you saw the last handful of people. And I think there were a couple of sections where they were picking up and sort of jumping into stuff that you could tell they were going faster, but it just didn't have that chaos that some of the racetracks we've seen in the last couple of years.
It didn't help that you didn't really see much of the run either. Like there was there must have been some crucial stuff that we didn't see, and then we got to see that sweet transition that they were using of the.
How good was that?
The dust fade or the fart fade, as Red Dog called it.
That's super weird, eh? Well, because I was sort of like, I started watching it and I saw it on the screen and I was like, that's a weird place for that much dust to be kicking up. And then I saw it again and I was like, is somebody like cutting wood with a chainsaw on the side and it's like wood chips?
I thought
And
it was
then I clicked.
my VPN having trouble. I thought
I
someone
thought
in
it
Hong
was
Kong's
like-
intercepting my messages.
What is the producer there thinking? Like, guys, I've got this great idea. I've got this new transition that I've downloaded off them in Windows 95.
Red Bull's
Yes.
calling it at this point. They're like, fuck, we're out next year. See you later.
Yeah,
I'm just going to make a mockery of it for the last 2 rounds.
Yeah, pretty much. I was astounded by that, but yeah, I think what made it kind of, like you say, Chris, like hard to really tell the difference was you only saw. You didn't really. I don't know if we saw less than other tracks, but it felt like we did.
Yeah. And then you felt like you saw a ton, or for me, I felt like I watched heaps of replays after the run. Slow-mos of shit. And I'm like, this is just get the next rider on.
There was
like,
heaps of filler, eh, for sure.
Yeah.
It must be a really shitty package for... Because Red Bull still does all the on-site for that, right?
Yeah.
So it must be a really shitty one for them because they don't just have exclusive rights like they do with every other event. So there's less financial motivation for them to actually put cameras all the way across the course. Plus, the cameras were stolen by the crowd because they were insane.
Or is there more financial motivation because they're selling the package on to somebody? I don't know how that end of it. Don't know how that end works.
I'm pretty sure Sky's paying about $4.50 to buy the downhill rights.
Yeah.
It's all right. They can break us off $1 of that each next year when we do the commentary for it.
Who did they have commentating?
So it was Andrew Neathling, and I don't know who the colour commentary guy was. I assume he's some sort of, semi-professional, but he was clueless. Like, he had no idea really what he was talking about. Neathling was good, but you can definitely see when you've got a guy like Rob who's really good at his job and knows everything, that like that's just the difference in it.
It's going to be super interesting whoever they put in next year because Rob is killer and he brings a particular personality to it, but the blend of him and Elliot I think is really good.
Yeah.
And I actually heard an interesting podcast the other day from a old school road cycling commentator, and he was talking about how the best combination of guys is pretty much exactly what Rob and Elliot are. You've got Rob who knows all the stuff, but he'll ask the dumb questions to Elliot.
Yeah,
knowing what the answer is, but to educate the plebs.
That's the thing. You've got to have the color commentary guy who can fill everything and like knows shit though, but then can pass it over to the play-by-play guy who can actually explain what's going on the screen and what's happening.
But then it's a type of commentary that like it's very different to road cycling, right? Like road cycling, you listen to the Tour de France commentary, and part of the entertainment is them talking about all the stories and the places they're passing through and all the rest of it. Like downhill should just be like horse racing. You just have one dude going 100 miles an hour,
just screaming the whole way down the hill,
just flat out.
That was kind of what it was like in the Freecaster days. Like if you go watch the Danny Hart Champery World Champs run, there was just two of them doing that though.
Yeah, I think you've got the other thing is as well is that we're probably not the target audience anymore. You know,
Nah. Well, this is what we're talking about your absence, Lester.
When Discovery comes in, they're going to be like, branching. Let's branch out. Let's get the average person to want to stay on here and watch it. And so
I'm still not 100% convinced that they'll completely dumb it down.
No, I don't think they will.
I don't think they can.
I think if the podcast's still running next year, we're going to have a lot to talk about. But I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think they're using downhill ski racing as kind of like a benchmark for how to broadcast this stuff and how to take it mainstream. And I think the way they commentate that stuff it's probably not as wild as Warner, but it's still super informed and real slick. And they're picking up all the technique, but they also broadcast the entire track. It's a big media operation.
Yeah. It's probably, ski racing as well. It's a lot more wide open than all of this stupid shit we watch where they're racing through trees and cows and everything like that.
I think that's one of the other things is the tracks naturally, if they want top to bottom coverage, then the tracks have to be out in the open, or at least more out in the open, to make for better camera coverage.
Yeah.
Whether you
They've been
like it or
making
not,
more
right?
use of the drone this year, eh? Like the drone's definitely come into play a lot more. Live drone, like they used out of the start, which I thought was quite cool.
The drone was
this
cool.
weekend.
Yeah.
So there's
Just
definitely
needs to be
some
a bit closer to them, I reckon. Like, I think a lot of the time it's just too far away. If they can get right in there, then it'll be sick.
Yeah, they'll get better with it. Before we go off on a tangent, we've just gone off on another tangent.
Oh yeah, we're only going on tangents.
That's what we do.
It's the podcast of tangents. I was watching Bruni's run, or watched his run, and I'm like, fuck, this dude has barely had. I was thinking about it, and I'm like, I feel like he's hardly had a season like in his career where he hasn't won something major. So I went back and looked at it. So go backwards. 2022 World Champ, 2021 overall World Cup winner, 2020 second overall in the World Cup. He had a shitter at World Champs. That was that wet Leogang one. So he had a shocker there. That was, 2020 has an asterisk on it anyway, so we'll ignore that. 2019 World Champ and overall World Cup winner. 2018 World Champ, 2017 World Champ, 2016 won his first World Cup round, 2015 World Champ.
That's bananas, eh?
I'm looking at him now going like, he's legitimately one of the all-timers. Like, it's hard to not put him in that camp with those guys now.
It's funny though, because it never seems like you could put someone in that camp when they're still at the peak of their career. So like, Minna, you're like, yeah, he's the GOAT, blah blah, but everyone's just going, well, when's he going to retire? But Bruni, it's like he's firing on all cylinders. Like, there's no question of whether or not he's here for the next couple of years.
It's funny because you kind of like, I start looking at him going like, we hold Petey at such high esteem, and he deserves it. Like, he's won a ton of World Cups and World Cup overalls and that. But then you look at this and you're like, Bruni's done pretty much just as much. And you're like, fuck, like,
Bruni must have been a junior right as the sport was hitting its kind of modern professional, pretty kind of like pretty sort of well trained, well organized sort of teams, right? Like Peter's era is obviously very different. It's more your era, Smokey. But
now he was Bruni came in 2012 as a junior, I think, and so the team he's on now is the team he started with.
Yeah.
So that's still the same management that he's riding for. It was Lapierre back then.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
so
that's crazy, eh?
You look at that, and you also look at it and go, he'll retire with him. Like, why would he go elsewhere? He has such a good thing going.
Also, he's only ridden 2 bikes in his professional career. Isn't that wild? Or 2 brands.
Lapierre and Specialized, like, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And like,
that is crazy to think about.
And he's been on that Specialized for a while now, and he would have had a very, very strong hand in the development of all those bikes. Well, interestingly enough, he's not on the new test rig that Finn's been riding.
Nah, and I kind of look at that, and like, I mean, clearly as the number one guy, he's obviously ridden it, at some point, but he's probably gone like, look, I'm dialed on this bike. I'll stay on this. We'll let this guy develop it. He can go do the race development. I'm not going to risk anything. So
that says a lot about him, though, as well, right? Like, he's going, I've got my setup exactly how I want it to win this year, and presumably he picks it up in the off season, and they've got a brand new bike next year that he's been riding.
But also,
summer.
He left Mont Saint Anne with an injury, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Was it his shoulder?
Shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gnarly, eh?
Equally impressive. He's man, he can turn it around, eh? He can do it when he needs it. He's kind of like the even better version of Burrell. Like, Burrell was like that. He could pull it out on those big events, but Bruni's just done it time and time again.
It's also gnarly as well, though, that he put 2.5 seconds into Emery when, like, Emery's kind of the guy of the moment, right? He's the French guy that everyone's going, oh wow, he's just unreal. And then for Bruni to come out and put 2.5 seconds into him and like a really clean, just classic Bruni run, it puts him on another level.
How's this? So there's an equal amount of time difference. So first to second, 2.6 seconds. Second to 10th is 2.4 seconds.
Wow.
That's gnarly, eh?
So he put in more time to second place than second place put into 10th place.
That's insane.
That's a huge win when you look at how tight the rest of those are.
Mm.
Yeah, that's nuts, isn't it? That's crazy. So Perron's run? I didn't think he looked as clean as he did in Montsanan. Again, he kind of seemed like he was like stiff and hitting things and whatever, and then he stalled going into those steeper, loose berms, which didn't really seem to affect his time. To be fair, I don't think he lost too much in that split, but it was interesting. He looked like he was really trying to force it, which I guess is often how he does look. But you contrast that with how Bruni looked, and Bruni was.
See, I think this goes back to the track. So this is the ultimate armchair perspective, but
that's what we're here for.
That's why we're here. I reckon he was like on that track. Those guys probably were looking for speed, like trying to find speed more often than they were trying to say
manage it,
right? And when you see Emery put down a heater, he's able to, like on the tracks where he does his thing, he's able to stay off the brakes and stay loose and get wild more than most guys. And so then on a track where he's having to find speed, it's not what we're used to seeing from him.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. Like you definitely see that on those fast tracks where he can just hang it out and ride super loose, is where he puts those big wins in. He's looking pretty good in terms of winning the World Cup overall next round. Anyway, I think he should have that pretty well sewn up. He's only got to score about 5 points or something like that, and he's sorted. So he'll definitely take something home at least. I'm sure he would have loved to have won World Champs, but he's got something going on there.
So
that's cool.
Other notable results?
Well, I think when we go back to our talking, when we put our predictions, and I think at times we've definitely discussed how it wouldn't surprise us to see a top three from France. So we got that. Loris in third. Again, it kind of like Loris looked good, but I don't know, Bruni's run just seems so outstanding that everyone else just kind of looked a little bit sort of lackluster to me.
I agree, for sure.
But they were obviously all still flying. Brosnan's been on the rise. When he put down his run, I was like, man, that's good. Like he's going to be in there, but yeah, just got pipped by those Frenchies. So he was fourth.
I think he's got to be pretty happy with that. Only having three.
Yeah, was this his third race of the season or something like that? So not bad going.
Something I've picked up with Bruni, and we should probably write a letter to the UCI and have him disqualified because he was actually wearing basically a lycra shirt. In fact, it was.
Their pants are all too tight too.
The pants are too tight, but that pants are all right. But the shirt, I'm pretty sure, was just a lycra top.
Yeah, I didn't look too close, but it's probably an XC one.
I'm okay with a full lycra skin suit if your boy's wearing a peak on his helmet.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah,
not because I'm okay with a skin suit, but because the two things make no sense together. But there you go. That's where we're headed.
Bring back skin suits.
What about a skin suit? But it has to look like it's got pants and a shirt. They can't be one color.
What about a skin suit except it's short sleeved and short legged, and you're wearing your Troy Lee T-bones with it, and you're and it just looks wrong.
Yeah, I like it.
And
The best was
you're a
when-
giant horse.
the best was when they would run skin suits, and they would be like, especially the chicks were serial offenders of this, because I think the female skin suits had like shorter legs on them, and they'd be quite short. They'd be like mid-thigh shorts on the skin suits, and then they'd have a pair of like downhill knee pads on, and they just looked so bad. It just was such a terrible look.
Oh, it's not ideal.
You had to run knee warmers or something just to cover, just to get that full coverage down there.
Got to cover the twat gap.
Yeah, it's not good. Anyway,
Standout thing for me, which was pretty rad, and Blinky's run. You know how they come off the bottom of the off camber across that little bit of Tarsiel Road.
yeah,
Well, and people were like kind of jumping it and casing it and whatever. He just backsided it, butted it so good, and I didn't see anyone else do it that good. I thought that was sick.
that's him though. Like he rides that stuff and makes it look so good, and will just nail it perfectly, like it's nothing. And he'll do it at the end of a World Champs race run when he's like probably 90% spent.
Yeah.
Laurie Greenland was definitely a standout in fifth. He missed a whole day of practice because he was evacuating out of both ends.
Yeah.
And then did you say he has a broken foot?
Sort of illness. Yeah, and so then I found out, or I read that he broke his foot in the last practice run before finals. So he just gritted it out for a fifth place and was only 100th of a second behind Brosnan and all of 0.6 of a second out of a medal.
Wow.
That's impressive.
He's got to be pretty gutted today because that's not a good lead up for him. What could have been. Yeah, he's got to be bummed about that.
Who are you guys more surprised by? Oliver Zwar getting 6th or Henry Kerr getting 9th?
Probably Henry Kerr.
Yeah, I think Oliver Zwar's had some good results. It was still surprising to see him sitting there in the hot seat and getting 6th, but I was like, Henry Kerr, the fuck did he come from?
Very random.
Do you reckon Red Dog's happy with Gwyn's 8th place?
No. I think he's upset, and I think he's having real doubts about his hero. And
shaky.
I think he's starting to waver on his support for the great man. But yeah, I mean, look, that result a couple of weeks ago was out of the box, and we all know that Gwyn's just retiring next year, and happy days.
You heard it here first.
To be fair, I was like,
straight from the armchair.
I reckon he'll be pretty. I think he would have wanted more, but I think he'll probably realise that was a pretty good shot. I mean, the next World Cup's going to be pretty telling, right?
Yeah, for sure. Benoit from accounts. Chris will be able to back this up, but I may or may not have sent a message to. Well, I did send a message to a group chat.
Cool.
I said, "This is the first day of practice," and I said, Benoit from accounts will be world champion. Stamp it.
Oh.
I put a stamp it on there. And then he went and won qualifying. And I was like, here we go. I am the smartest man alive.
When he won qualifying was when I knew that you were wrong, Kerry.
Yeah,
because it was world champs qualifying and it meant
he peaked too early.
Yeah. The thing is, he's still getting used to being that top 5 guy, right?
Yeah.
To be fastest qualifier at world champs for the first time ever is it's a pretty big thing.
The thing is, though, is that even though he still started in his usual start position, though. So it's not like you don't have that quite terrifiedness of being the last person down the hill all of a sudden that you've never had before.
That's true. Yeah.
That's something. So can you explain that, Kerry? Start positions for World Champs different to the way they run at World Cup?
Yeah, so a regular World Cup will be, although the top 20, it kind of shuffles a little bit from 20th, depending if there's protected people. But essentially, a normal World Cup is fastest person from qualifying starts last.
Yeah.
Whereas World Champs, the start order is already set by UCI ranking.
Yeah, okay.
And then your qualifier, so they take top 80 at World Champs. They never used to. It used to be everyone. If you were at World Champs, you raced finals. It didn't matter. You just did a seeding run, essentially.
Then it
got shuffled.
I feel vilified in my opinion, that it was a fucking boring race to watch, except for Bruni.
Yeah, because it was a little bit all over the place. Because you did have dudes who were dropping in earlier, like Troy Brosnan, putting down heaters, and then especially when you get someone like that puts a fast run in early, and then you have these guys who are just not even touching it, and you're kind of like, what's going on? Like
that's the thing. Like if you see someone go into the hot seat at position 15 or position 20 or something, and they go on the hot seat be like a second, you're kind of going, oh yeah, that's awesome. They're on the hot seat. And then from here, it's just going to get better and better and better, and you get down to the top 10, and every ride is just like, yeah, cool, this is getting sharper and sharper. But that's not what happens with the world champs.
It's like when these fucking guys used to play the rain game. So Valdesol, 2008, like the best world champs I had. So I qualified 15th. Burrell had done a rain game type thing. He'd qualified slow, so he was down early, and he'd put a pretty good run in. I came through in second behind him, but back then it didn't matter. There was only the hot seat was one person, so it was pretty much like, oh, and he doesn't match his time, and that was like my 2 seconds, my 2 seconds of nothing, and then you're gone. But otherwise, if Burrell hadn't done that and he'd been like in a regular qualifying position, then I would have come down and gone to the hot seat at World Champs. So fuck you, Burrell.
So just on a tangent there, what do you think? How would that have changed your trajectory as a racer, and then later in your career as a media personality? Like, where would you be now if you'd got that time on the hot seat and you got the photo?
Probably be at like downtime podcast kind of level, I'd say.
I would have thought so.
Rather than this kind of level. I think that's where it all eventuates to, like. No, it's just that's a whole nother story for another day. I was just terrible at business when I was young. I didn't know how to approach people. I was too scared to talk to people, so I just fucked it up myself. That had nothing to do with the hot seat. Good. Any of these juniors out there, feel free to come to me for advice on what not to do. I'll steer you in the right direction.
Just chase the money. Go where the e-bikes are.
Yeah, go to the e-bike. I heard some pretty juicy rumors the other day, just quickly on an e-bike topic, on a couple of top enduro guys got offered $100,000 over top of what their current contracts were to race EWSE next season.
What, as additional rounds, or
like just go full time e-bike guys?
I've got to say, if you are in the last couple of years of your career and you're seeing that, take the fucking money.
I tell you what, don't give me $100,000 this year. Give me $80,000 over the next 2 years and give me a $2,000 contract, or $80,000 extra.
100%.
That's unreal.
Give me that money. I don't have too much more in the elite that really kind of stood out. I guess our top finisher was Eddie in 30th. George with shingles in 41st. Brooke in 42nd. Blinky in 45th. I think that was basically Hayden Steed in 58th. That's pretty much all of our guys in the end.
Yeah. Just one note on Finn. So, being that he'd just come back from concussion and then he goes and smashes his helmet, he potentially could be out of the next round as well.
Good point there. That was someone that we probably should have brought up, because Finn had, I think it was 5th place in qualifying. And then I kind of missed the fact that he wasn't racing. And then I'm sitting there waiting for him to drop into his run. And I'm like, why are they putting so much filler in here? Like, what's this huge gap for? And then, it turns out Finn Isles had hurt himself during practice. So that's a bummer if he misses the next round, because he's second overall in points.
Yeah, and he was just coming onto it, right?
Perron's basically got it wrapped up, but it's like still second overall in points would be pretty sweet for him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a bummer.
I wonder how far back he'll drop if he doesn't show.
He's probably pretty good, because he's got about 240 points over Vergier, so he should still stay. He should still stay top 3. Actually, I think he's got top 3 wrapped up. So
say he misses the
Please
next
got a
round,
top 3
Terry,
bonus.
and he and obviously that's the end of the season. What does next year look like for Finn? Do you want to make a prediction now?
Probably much the same as this year, but maybe more consistent in terms of his placings. Pulls a win or two off. That'd be kind of where I'd see him.
Leicester
being one of those guys up there.
I think there's two things could happen. I think KB's probably on the money, but the spanner in the works could be 2 concussions in the space of a few months.
Yeah, it's not great.
We never know what's going to happen out of that. Back in our day, you'd be fine. You just keep racing. Concussion wasn't.
There seems to be a bit more awareness of concussion going on. Especially, I saw something that Tani was talking about that seemed to bring some attention to it.
Yeah, so I think that'll be super interesting to see. Anyway, I mean, maybe he's fine from his crash. Maybe it's something. Maybe he sprained his wrist or something. I don't know. But
we're all speculating from afar here.
He snapped that bike in two, and they didn't have a spare.
Maybe
that wouldn't be the first time that's happened.
I've got one other result of note that I want to ask about. So David Trummer came in 15th. That would be one of his better results of the year. Is that right?
Of the year, I would say,
yeah. I think probably one of his better ones of the year. I think he's had another result up around that area at a World Cup round.
And following that is that
don't get me started on
route,
get me
but his
started
bike
on those
is
bikes.
just a nightmare. And that's got to be it, right? Like
they don't look good. They don't look good. Those guys look all so uncomfortable on them. There's something fundamentally wrong with those bikes.
The whole team, that every rider you'd expect to be a good 5 to 10 places ahead of where they are this year.
Yeah.
Is this contract year for Brooke?
I think it is.
Yeah, I think it might.
I think this is a second. I think this is a second year because I think because it was 2020 that he got. Oh, 2019 he got hurt, wasn't it? Mont Saint Anne, because it was Mont Saint Anne, and they didn't race it. This year was the first year back. So then I think he did. Yeah, maybe he did. Maybe 2020 was a second year of that contract, and then I think he did another maybe 2 years, so 21, 22.
Right.
Yeah,
so that'll be interesting.
Yeah,
sure.
And then you got to start to wonder, like, it's really interesting because you kind of get to that point where it's like Mondrake is probably going, we've had dudes in the past winning on our bikes. We want someone to win on our bikes, but then the flip side is, can someone win on that bike?
Yeah.
So it's like, do they just go and try and like do a reset? I don't know how long Tahoto signed for, but he's on his first year with them. Same with Trummer. So it's hard to say. Like those guys probably on 2-year deals, but it'll be interesting to see. There's could be a few a little bit of a shuffle around this year, maybe.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. We'll start seeing more rumours soon, I suppose.
We'll have to start putting some feelers out there, see if we can get some rumours.
Surely we can find some people who know people.
Yeah, I'll message Sven. See what he'll tell me. He probably won't tell me anything though now. Now that he used to tell me stuff because he knew I didn't tell anyone. But now
now you're a media personality.
Podcast. Now I'm a media mogul.
You've got a vested interest in breaking stories.
Just got a message from Clay Porter. Just no big deal.
Was it by any chance him asking if we can do a rewatchables about one of his films, and then him offering to come and do it with us? Because that sounds great.
We're talking about 3-minute gaps because he just put something on his story about like how how good the race was and from filming it, and how he's like got him itching to make another movie, and I'm like, I can do it. It'd be so good.
Yeah,
I miss those like documentary style movies.
Hold on. So you're in text communication with Clay Porter and you haven't got him lined up for the podcast yet. Is that because he knows his value?
Yeah, probably. Clay's pretty big time, mate.
Yeah, I know. He's huge.
I'm amazed he still replies to me.
He's like,
I knew him when he was still the the hood guy who wore like real baggy pants that were always pants that were always falling down, and he was just hustling and running around. So, but now
I traded him some Quiet Chaos jeans for a couple of DVDs back in the day when he was out here filming with Justin.
Good deal.
Yeah,
Sweet.
Good.
Clay's awesome.
Is that why Quiet
right.
Chaos isn't really a brand anymore?
what's that?
Is that why Quiet Chaos isn't making clothes anymore?
Yeah,
The business model didn't play out.
Swapping for DVDs didn't really work.
Ends up you have to sell some stuff as well as give it away.
Brilliant.
Especially when he was swapping it for a media that's like very obsolete now.
That's right. Surely it's all on YouTube now anyway.
All right. I've got some questions here from our absent Red Dog. He's at least done something and sent something through. So I'll reel these off and let's go through these. We'll punch through them quickly. Will Amory ever win world champs? Thoughts? Either of you. Feel free to.
Yes, he will. Of course he will.
I'm going no.
I'm going no as well.
So I said this about Gwyn in about 2011, and I'm the fucking smartest man alive. I wish I had a podcast that I had broadcasted on back then, but it was probably just Red Dog that I told.
He will.
I think he'd need a serious... Well, I don't know. I mean, this is total armchair speculation once again. But he seems like he just wants it too badly. Like, looking at him at the top of the hill and then how much he was gutted at the bottom of the hill, and then I did hear on another pod I was listening to that he was still bummed when the podium presentation was going on. He was, like, sitting down with his head and his hands out the back, you know, like...
I did see a picture from the podium and he was looking across at Bruni with this just like, fuck, like, come on sort of look. Like,
I'd agree with you if it was someone else, right? Like if there was another rider who was just possibly putting too much weight on the shoulders. But Amory appears to love the pressure. He loves being the last guy down the hill, right? Like they always talk about it in the commentary. He loves being the last guy in the box. He can turn it on whenever he wants to. I just think that if he's got the right course, then he can do it. Like I just think this track wasn't as suited to him as it potentially was Bruni. And
where are we at next year? Fort William?
Yeah, so it's not going to happen there.
He's won at Fort William though. He's had a pretty big win at Fort William, I think.
I think for him to win a world champs, it has to be at a Valdezol type track.
Yeah, something big.
Yeah, big, hectic, fast.
All right. Let's see.
Next question.
We have to keep the podcast going a few more years to.
Fuck, that's a lot of admin.
We're gonna keep something going.
People better start listening to it. Yeah, he's actually won at Fort William 3 times, so he's pretty good there. 3 times in a row: 2018, 2019, and 22.
Yeah,
so good chance that he can win world champs next
time. So take my armchair expertise and throw it out the fucking window.
Yeah, and then take mine and say no that he won't. Yeah, I think we're both pretty wrong on that one. But
I don't think he will. Or no, let's put it this way: I don't think he will in the next 3 years.
No, he'll win next year. But nah, Fort William. He'll come back. He's the GOAT at Fort William. He'll come back and he'll win world champs at age 41.
You know your rule.
Imagine it.
You have to write him off for him.
Yeah, I got to shit on him just beforehand, so then he'll come back and prove me wrong. Next question. What is Bruni's green light for? I think he's got
Tell him if he's up in the splits or not.
That'd be pretty
cool. Has he
cool.
got a green light on his bike?
I think it's to do with his lockout. I think he's got some sort of lockout system on his shot.
Apparently so. I reckon you need to have a light that tells you if you're up in the splits or not.
Put a little goggle one, so you get a little flashy green or a little flashy red.
But it's,
some people like
for those guys. Is that gonna make them go? I better go faster here.
It would probably be a mind fuck. It'd probably cook you. You'd just blow the next turn out. I know I would, because I'd be like, fuck, I've got to go faster.
It depends on the person, right? I don't know. I don't know, but
yeah. I remember there's I think it was when Hill won Worlds in Fort William, and it's in one of the videos, and he's like, I heard a guy on the side of the track tell me that I was down by 3 seconds, so I went a bit faster. Don't know what he was talking about, though. It's like, ends up winning.
Yeah, that's God.
So yeah,
God's
no,
different.
apparently it's something to do with lockout, potentially compression-y thing, but who knows?
Something like that. Who was the biggest disappointment?
Oh, where do we start?
The
The biggest disappointment, just of this race or this year?
Just this race, I think. I think we're focusing on this
It's the
race.
biggest disappointment.
Is this in the context of all of the results or generally? Because to say a result is a disappointment if they're inside the top 20 is probably a bit harsh.
Well, I mean, if it's someone that you expected to win and they had a good run.
Yeah.
Jackson Goldstone, here's my biggest disappointment.
Yeah, no, it's disappointment. He let us all down. He let himself
He probably,
down. Let his family
he
down.
probably should have won pretty handily.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
crashed
big disappointment.
twice.
Yeah.
Who was Henry Kerr? That's the next question. Great question. I don't know. He's Irish. I don't even know what kind of bike he rides. Nuke proof? They all ride nuke proof when they're from Ireland, right?
And they're all green.
What the hell is up with the broadcast dust/fart graphic? We've already covered that one.
Discussed that. We just agreed, just to answer Red Dog's question, we've agreed that Red Bull's just mailing in at this point. They don't give a fuck.
So here's one I've got to take on. Why do the riders hug each other like there's been a death in the family after they have a bad run?
They hug each other anytime, though. You have a good run, they're hugging. If they have a bad run, they're hugging.
It's got a bit out of hand. Do you know what I want to see? I want to see Perron come through the line and be so angry that Bruni beat him, he just goes and punches him in the face. I want to see some biff at the end of a run. I want to see something go down. Road racing, the biffo all the time.
Yeah.
Can we get some in downhill? Where's the testosterone? Maybe we don't have enough of it.
They're not really racing head-to-head. That's the problem. They need to bring back four-cross for that.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked
Even
about
that.
four-cross extensively on this podcast, Lester, so I think you'll find that everyone's in agreement with you there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't know. The hugging's a bit out of hand sometimes. You get I get the excited one, but yeah, sometimes you're like, come on, mate, just go back to the truck.
Has Red Dog got any questions in there about custom painted frames?
Yes, that's coming. Was this the best track of the season?
No.
I'm with you there. No,
It didn't look like it would have been fun to ride, most of it.
Apparently,
some of it looked.
the racers said it was really good. Like, I saw a thing with Minna on like day 2 or something, and he was like, it's a really, really good track, like really well thought out, Didn't look very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it was the best track of the season, but
Maybe it was just how it was put together for us punters to watch it.
could have been. Again, this is armchair analytics at its finest.
Yeah.
How did Troy Lee Designs miss the mark with those awful Canyon kits? They were,
I don't
weird.
think they were that bad.
I
It
wasn't.
was kind of like a bit tie-dye-ish.
Yeah, it was a bit. I don't know. It was a little bit odd.
Bit funky. Although having said that, the Aussie kit, so T-Roy, as usual, in his race run wearing his Aussie jersey, looked really cool. Because he
With his yellow gloves. The yellow gloves were just like, they were on point. They were perfect.
Because the Aussie jersey is like white with a couple of green stripes, and it looked good. Because T-Roy is always on point.
White pants are big this year. Runs into their white pants again.
Yeah.
They've really...
actually, yeah, interestingly, everyone ends up with a skid mark on their backside, right? Imagine if most of them weren't running a 27.5 wheel, but they were back on a 29. Like, where's that wheel going?
It's just torn. The ass is torn to pieces.
That's not a skid mark anymore, Lisa. That's just a hole.
Yeah. It's like Rankin's skid suit at Fort William World Champs in 2007. He's just got a giant hole and his ass hanging out the back of it. And then, kind of leading on from that last one, non-country related world's paint jobs. Discuss.
Right.
So I was a big fan of the world champs bikes when people would roll out, like a world champs, like kind of country coloured theme. But now everyone's just taken it as a cue for like, let's just make a bike
Just a
that's custom
bike.
painted.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Like,
So Red Dog and I had
people are using Disney themes, apparently.
we had an extensive discussion about this while we were out night riding on hardtails, which you would have been right into, Kerry.
I'd rather go road riding.
Yeah, you'd rather be poking things in your eye. So my position on it is this. I get the idea of like the big build up for world champs and having, a special bike and a special kit. That's all fine. I mean, I think it's a bit weird just to do a paint job that's not in any way related to the fact that it's world champs, right? So world champs, either the place that's being raced or your country of origin. My big issue, though, so to some extent, do what you want. My big issue, and I think this reflects where the sport's at the moment and why it's still got a long way to go, is when you've got that much real estate and that much media real estate to just give all that media real estate to a fucking cartoon franchise, a massive cartoon franchise that's not paying you, right? So what the fuck is that about? Like, those guys, if I don't know, if they're putting all that time and effort into their paint jobs, their bikes and stuff, knowing that a big part of it is that they'll get the media attention, they'll get the shots and everything, and it's good for bike brands because suddenly, like all the pivots are getting special photo shoots and everything. But if you're a sponsor and you're pumping actual money into buying real estate from these riders, and suddenly like they're just giving up all that real estate to cars, I'm pissed, eh? I'm like, no, sorry guys. That's my rant. That's my issue.
It's it's an odd one, especially when two people show up with cars themed bikes.
Oh,
it's a bit awkward.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Here's a tangent for you. Speaking of real estate and sponsors and that, so for anyone who's into motocross or supercross, the Pro Circuit team has always been huge in the US, right? So Pro Circuit in the early days, they were really struggling. Like first couple of years of the team, it was sort of pretty much just on the point of folding up. And Hot Wheels came out with a car theme called Pro Circuit. And Pro Circuit owned the rights to the name. So started like the legal proceedings, and then Mitch was like, hold on. So he went and started talking to them, as like, we won't do any legal proceedings, but you guys are going to sponsor our team.
Yeah.
So then Hot Wheels became a big sponsor of the team for like 2 or 3 years. And basically it was like, here's how you're going to pay us. You're just going to pay us in sponsor dollars instead of going through all this shit. So there's just a random side topic of real estate there for you, Chris.
So to put my theory to the test, say one of these guys turned up at the World Champs, instead of having cars logo bike, right? Which they're cool bikes and all, and it's like if the rider's connected to it, it's awesome.
They endorse them.
They're the ones that are turning up. It's their big day. Respect. It's probably more from a sponsor's perspective, which I'm not. But if a rider turned up one day and they had one of their actual sponsors and they'd just given up their whole bike to one sponsor, so they just
like
suddenly turned their whole bike into like a Maxxis
sticker.
frame. Exactly. But normally Maxxis is like a mid-tier sponsor, or like, not a top-tier sponsor for the team. If you're one of the other sponsors of that team, you're looking at it going, whoa. What's the story here? Why isn't there a massive Troy Lee logo across here when we're the Troy Lee Trek team or whatever else? That's my logic. Like, it doesn't play out.
That wouldn't happen, though.
Well, it would, because someone will turn up to World Champs with a Disney franchise on their bike. Except they're not being paid for it.
Well, that's kind of the thing. Like, it's a kind of an unrelated thing. Like, you're not going to end up with one of your same sponsors taking over, because that's like, there's a hierarchical thing going on.
Yeah, but
I hear what you're saying.
This is my
point. But it's not going to happen with your own sponsors.
They completely undermine any hierarchy or any kind of agreement they've got with their sponsors by going and giving all that space to someone who's just not a sponsor.
That I agree.
Not making any contribution to the team.
Yeah, that I agree with. Yeah.
But this sounds like a real cynical, grumpy old view from someone who's watching it on Red Bull on Sunday morning.
That's true. It's very true.
That's my theory.
But yes, that's Worlds for another year.
Yeah, one race, one big day. It was always a good one. It was always pretty exciting to go to. But yeah, it's an interesting one, especially when the World Cup's still in the thick of things. So we've got Vanderkolk coming up next weekend, I think.
I think it's
It's
next
pretty
week.
tight again. We got one more of these to go.
Mm.
We'll have to think of other shit to talk about. Now we've got some topics. We've got some stuff, so we won't fade away too quickly. We'll try and maybe get a few episodes.
Yeah, we've got some big announcements coming. I actually have a question for you, Lester.
Just when we're talking about other announcements and things, our mate Brad from America, he's quite keen to. Well, he's not that
Brad
keen,
Cummins.
actually. I told him, Brad Cummins. I told him that we were going to have him on as a special guest.
Oh, absolutely. We've got to get Brad Cummins from San Clemente or wherever he's from.
Anyway, sorry, Chris, you had a question for me.
I've got a question for you. There's a precursor to an announcement that will come. If you you think back to your years, probably your best years, really. If you were going to race downhill again and you were riding a 26-inch, what would you ride? What would you try and get your hands on?
What bike do you reckon you'd find?
What would you ride? You're frozen.
What would I ride?
I'm not sure if it was frozen or asleep there for a second.
He's had a stroke.
If I was going to go and if I had to race a 26-inch bike, I'd ride a Sunday.
Would you?
That's a good choice.
Would you know where to get one?
Would you not have a Kiwi you could dig out of somewhere to keep it OG?
There is a Kiwi sitting in a place in Auckland that I know of that.
Oh, is that the 420 mountain bike park?
Yeah.
Okay.
What have you found, Chris?
Okay. We've got some ideas. We won't give away too much.
I haven't found anything. Red Dog's found something.
Has he found my old bike?
No.
No. He's just found a new. He's just found himself a new bike.
Yeah. Red Dog's got a new.
Nah, we've got some ideas for potentially an event next year. We feel like 26 inches not dead yet, so
Put it this way: the market for old 26-inch downhill bikes is just going to get pretty hot pretty quickly, and so
fueled by the OTB.
Just get the jump on it now, guys.
It's going to be a seller's market soon.
It's going to be a seller's market. It'll be
sketchy.
It'll be like selling property in Auckland a couple of years ago.
If anyone's got an old D2 they want to donate, I'm not paying for it, but if you've got one you want to donate, would kindly take it off your hands.
Yeah,
not to be worn. Doesn't need to be worn. It can be cracked or anything. It's fine.
Yeah. And ideally, if you've got one of the replacement Moto peaks for it as well.
Oh yeah.
The original.
Also a set of boxer lowers. I'm looking for a set of boxer lowers, 26-inch ones. Don't need to be ridden either, but this is just all part of the announcement to come later on.
What's coming?
Keep it mysterious.
Question, Moki, how many nights did you spend in that camper with Byron while you're in Canada and the States? Because it didn't look like a big camper.
It definitely wasn't big. We spent probably 8, maybe 10 nights in there, topping and tailing. So here's the yarn, right? So we're going to go to Canada for 2 weeks. And we were like, we'll get a camper van and then we don't have to have any real plan. So we start looking, and generally I'm the admin guy when it comes to any trips that we do.
No.
And so we're trying to find a camper. Couldn't find anything. And in the end, Byron pings me back and he's like, bro, the only thing we can find is a wicked camper.
No way.
So
That was all that was available.
Was all that was available. Like literally was unreal. And so we were like, well, it's our only real option that has a bed in it. So we'll just get that. So we rock up in Vancouver. We catch the taxi to the place. and it's just a total piece. Like, in fact, all their vans are total pieces, but this was next level. Like 374,000 Ks on the clock, I think it was. GMC Safari van. It was grim. And so we were like, well, we were just like cracking up at how bad it was. It was just comical. And we had no gear. We were like, okay, so now we've got to go and get some sheets and some pillows and whatnot. And the dude there's this massive mountain of linen and bits and pieces, duvets and whatnot, like on top of a pool table in the middle of the Wicked Camper place. And this is like a fully Darrow old warehouse kind of thing, like real Darrow. And there's just this pile of stuff, and the dude's we were like, oh, what's this all about? And he's like, oh, just help yourself. It's just stuff that people leave behind. So we're like, oh, sweet. There's a couple of pillows which look like unsoiled. So we got some pillows from there. And then I was like, oh, I'll just grab a couple of things just in case we need them. So I like grab a sheet and grabbed a duvet. And then we were like, okay, cool. So we went to like a Kmart sort of place to stock up on. We decided we needed some new sheets. And so we buy what we think is a set of queen sheets.
Just to interrupt you there, Mikey. Who picked them, you or Byron?
It was a
couple's decision?
A team decision. Yeah. Couple's decision. Yeah. There wasn't many options. So we roll out and we get these sheets, and then the first night we go to make the bed, and we're like, all right, we'll put the fitted sheet on the bottom and it'll be all good. And it's for a single, it ends up we brought single sheets. So, fortunately, I grabbed this sheet from the camper place. So we like put that over the bed, and it wasn't big enough either to go over the whole thing. So we're just like, oh, we'll just run it. And so Byron had the single top sheet over top of him, and I slept like inside the fitted sheet, the single fitted sheet. It sounds ridiculous, but it's actually legit because it like pulls itself around you. It's gold.
And it was like
cocoon. It was so good. We were like, amazing. And then it was hilarious. The first couple of nights we were in Bellingham. Well, the first night we spent in Vancouver at a hotel. And then we went to Bellingham and we caught up with some of the guys from Transition. And we were like, oh, where can we camp around here? And they're just like, oh, there's a new car park for the trails. Like the main trail car park is like a K up the road kind of thing. Might not have even been that. So we roll up there and there's like a no camping sign. And the dude Forrest, who became our good mate down at Transition, he was like, oh, don't worry about the signs. My buddy's been living up there for like 10 weeks in his truck. You'll be sweet. So we park up there. And then each evening, I think we did 2 nights there, maybe even 3 nights. I can't remember. And each evening there'd just be like this little posse of like 6 or 7 others would turn up, and we'd just have this like little camp set up. It was sick. But everyone was like looking at us slightly sideways because we're 2 fully grown 40-odd-year-olds sleeping top and tail in a double bed. In a Wicked Camper.
Oh, I love it.
So yeah, that was pretty fun.
I wouldn't expect anything less though from you guys.
It was pretty Darrow. Like it definitely was as if you were 20-odd-year-old. Like
that had to be the appeal though, right?
It definitely was pretty cool. Waking up in the morning and you're at the trails, and then you like have some granola sitting on the car park, and then like hop on your bike and go and ride for 3 hours. Awesome. You know, like that's kind of better than staying in a hotel.
Well, it's just like one of the last times you and Byron came down to a race in Nelson, and I came and picked you guys up from the airport, and I'm like, where are you staying? You were staying at a fucking top 10 campground.
Oh, yeah. That's true. We had Matt Berry with us, and I think we might have had Connor with us. Connor as well.
Yeah, Connor and Matt Berry, so you had to show them the ropes.
Yeah.
But I do remember staying in the top 10. Chris, myself, Red Dog, Mally, and Greg
Blenheim?
Turner, maybe. Yeah, in Blenheim. It was like a room that basically fit 2 bunk beds in it, and I slept on a camp stretcher, basically, and right wedged in the middle of the 2 bunk beds. There was not a lot of space in there.
Yeah,
those were good times.
Those were the days when I'm sure it probably still happens these days, but everyone was staying at the campground, and in the evening, people would just be hitting cuddies and causing trouble in their in the campground, while they're folks.
Yeah.
They're folks who never really had this perspective as a teenager, but the parents that travelled with the kids to races must have had a fucking great time, eh? Like, they're out on the road, staying in the campgrounds, getting on the piss on a Saturday night. Don't have to do much else.
You should. It's fucking good now. Like, I mean, it's kind of scary because now at the age I'm at, I have more in common with the dads at the races, and so like the funny thing is though, is you see them in the morning and they all just kind of gravitate towards each other, and then it just turns into this congregation of all the dads hanging out and drinking coffees.
Yeah,
and then I just go yarn to them because I've got
And
more
you're
to
there.
talk to them about than I do to anyone else that's racing because I'm 12 years older than everyone else.
yeah. Why are you wearing your son's riding pants, Kieran?
I need to retire.
Well, we need to find a race to go to sometime in the next 6 months or so, I reckon.
Yeah, there'll be something coming up.
Yeah,
Sounds
there's
dangerous.
bound to be something coming up. There's bound to be a...
The
calendar
100 will be a bit of fun.
No, it won't. It's going to be terrible. I mean, I'm looking forward to it, but it's going to be terrible.
Doing it this year?
But, pardon me?
Are you doing it?
Yeah.
You are? Oh,
Yep.
nice. For some reason, I'd heard you weren't.
I'm not.
Know who you've been talking to. I'm pretty sure I'm still doing it.
I thought only Red Dog was. Anyway, that's all right.
Beth said you're not. What did you think you're doing?
Someone might have cancelled my entry for me.
Yeah.
You might have been talking to my my weight gain over the last 6 months, because it's saying that I'm not.
That should be interesting. Well, there's a race. There you go. Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, boys,
Hey, Rick.
it's nearly 10 p.m. I got to go to Melbourne tomorrow, so I should go and get some shit organised and put this podcast together so I can get it out before I leave for our loyal listeners.
Are you going for work, or are you just going shopping?
I'm going for work. I'm not going shopping. No, I still really go by the wearing whatever's free that I can get in terms of mountain bike t-shirts, etc. That's most of my wardrobe still.
Can the OTB podcast do a range of merch?
There has been some brief discussions of some merch, some riding jerseys. I mean, you may know someone who's on this podcast who had or still maybe slightly exists a brand that made some riding kits. So we've got a line in there. We might even do a jean, an OTB jean.
A jean.
The jeans factory's gone. I think it's closed.
Fuck! I was really wanting to go for like those. What are those ones that had heaps of like fucking bedazzles and shit all over them? True Religion, or what it was. They were big in the States back in the day. Like
that's the one.
lots of rivets and shit on them.
That would be gold.
Something really rare.
I'd go on OTB podcast riding tops and t-shirt.
Yeah, I reckon we can definitely sort out some riding jerseys. I actually need to get some samples going out of China. I've found a new factory.
Do they do a skin suit?
Can we?
Yeah, they do actually, and if funny you mention that because well, they do one, but it doesn't have pockets on the back. I want a speed suit with pockets.
With pockets.
No.
Well,
so I need to ask them if they've done one.
might slide into your DMs.
Yeah, what's the turnaround time on downhill jerseys?
Don't know.
Because Red Dog and I and probably a couple of others will need some.
Yeah, it's a bit of a resurgence.
I will make some inquiry.
We might have to get a discussion going offline on this one.
Yeah, because
We'll
we're going
bring
to
it to the
bed.
people.
See ya.
Yeah.
All right, that's enough for this week. Actually, real quick, give me a prediction on men's and women's winners for Val d'Isle.
Piron will crash because he wants another win. He'll push too hard.
He'll still win the title because he's got it basically sewn up.
Bruni will be podium, but he won't win.
So you're saying it's time for Benoit to shine?
I reckon Benoit could shine.
I put Bruni in first, Benoit second, Emery third.
I reckon Deprella will be in there.
Yeah.
Mother this one.
I'm going Benoit.
For the win.
I'm putting my money on it. I'm going Benoit. I'm staying true. I think it's his time. He'll get there when it's time, and it's time.
And Valley takes the win. Smokes everyone.
Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that. She's got momentum.
Yeah.
And she has the potential to win the overall if she wins, so she'll be pushing for it. So, yeah. I'll agree with that one.
If she takes the overall and world champs in 1 year after what the year that she's had.
That'll be impressive.
I also
Seriously
reckon
impressive.
Jackson, pending conditions, Jackson's a top 5 in the elite, in the senior.
Oh, yeah.
Could be a happening thing.
Yeah.
Runner.
All right.
I'm going to bed. We can unpack the rest of my van life stories next time.
Yeah,
we'll save that.
Can we do a
podcast
podcast just on Moki's story, Moki's life?
Yeah,
My life.
we'll get there.
Excellent.
I'm still writing my life story, man. It hasn't finished yet.
Well,
And that's our cue exit. We'll see you next week.
What's up?
I come from the land of down under. I can't hear you. What was that? I can't hear you. I let it be like John Lennon, the anti-serum that you don't get for poisonous venom. Read the label carefully, I'm only here for the show. I love hip-hop too much to let you feed my ego. In the key of F-U-C-K, Y-O-U. I mean, why do I owe you if you're not helping me through? I mean, why do I owe you if you're obstructing my view? Success is not my castle, just a house that's brand new. You see, I irrigate the culture, give it shape like a sculpture. Still complicated, rock like I'm supposed to be. L-I-T-Z like my DJ. Rock to the rhythm like you rock to what he plays.